You call me out upon the waters, the great unknown, where feet may fail, and there I find you in the mystery, and oceans deep, my faith will stand. I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace, for I am yours and you are mine. Abounds in deepest water, your sovereign hand will be my guide. Where feet may fail and fear surrounds me, you never failed and you won't start now. So I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace, for I am yours and you are mine, and you are mine. Yeah, yeah. You are mine. Yeah. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace, for I am
about ourselves and our lives. The second, to look beyond what we understand about our potential and significance to be. And last but not least, to look beyond what we understand about God and his purpose in our lives. So yesterday with Rowan, we talked about finding a better purpose and a better peace. And the two topics we'll be having this morning is to have tragedy and freedom. And both of these topics will be talked by our speaker of the day, which is Mitchum. So I'm going to take a moment to tell you a bit about him. So he's a graduate of the Northern Caribbean University in Mandeville, Jamaica, with a bachelor's in religion and theology. He was a resident advisor, an assistant dean of men, and a former student ambassador. He is currently serving as a chaplain for Greaves Academy, and he's pastored in Quebec City, the Eastern Townships, and Montreal. So without further ado, I will invite Mitchum up to stage.
There you go. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here at Imagine. I'd like to thank our musician. I can't play any instruments, so anytime I see someone playing or singing, I have to give you props, Thanks to Jason and the rest of them for inviting me here. For those who are here and those who are online, thank you for joining us at Imagine. I imagine you're wondering, why am I standing in front of you? What do I have to say to you? Why are you up so early on a Saturday morning? Because I know some people sleep until 1. That's some good time. But we're here to look at a theme that sometimes causes us to scratch our heads and even causes us to even cry. Because when we talk about tragedy, it's something that baffles us because very often we don't always have the answers or the words. And sometimes, just sometimes, we make it worse by just keep going. And today, I just want to talk to you a little bit about a better tragedy. And to view tragedy not in this specific way, but I want to give you an angle to look at tragedy from. And it's important that we understand that tragedy is not necessarily something that God wishes upon us so that he might punish us for all the bad and evil that we have done, because that's often what we think when we think of tragedy. We often believe that it's something that, we deserve it, so we're suffering through it. But then we come to some difficult points, such as a child who was sitting in front of their house and a stray bullet hits them. Or you're walking to work and suddenly a bomb goes off and shatters your legs or your dreams. When you realize that you're going jogging and you clench your stomach not knowing what happened, and you wake up in the hospital knowing that now you have a terminal illness. How do we reconcile this with this omnipotent, all-powerful God, a loving God who cares for us and he wants to take care of us, and all we seem to see around us is sadness, pain, and suffering? How do you justify me praising God, praying to God, even believing in God when there's so much hurt and pain all around us? Some people have cleverly put together words such as theodicy, divine justice. That's what the Greek word theodicy means. It comes from the words of God and justice, where we seek to reconcile the notion of a benevolent God. And it's difficult to reconcile this because, to be honest, it's like, but if God really loves us, he wouldn't let us suffer. If God loves us, he wouldn't let us go through this pain. If God loves us, he wouldn't let us go through these things. And we're wondering, scratching ourselves. And I'll be honest with you. And I might get in trouble with this, but I don't have all the answers. I know you tuned in, you're like, you probably have your pen and paper and you're probably jotting down, but I'm here to say you, number one, I don't have all the answers, and I don't think anyone else does. And that's our problem as human beings. We try and find the answers to everything. And sometimes, just sometimes, we need to admit that we don't have the solutions for everything. And even when you're at home and you realize your cabinet door is broken and you're like, well, I got to learn how to fix doors, and when you're living by yourself or you're going to the school and you're trying to fix that dorm room door and all you're doing is making it worse. Now it can't close. Then you take it off and now it can't get back on. And the more and more you try and fix it, it just doesn't get anywhere until someone who knows what they're doing comes along and fixes the door properly while asking questions like, who touched the door? Let's be honest. That's not what we're really arguing about. And, you know, I don't want to say this out too loud, but thank God for Netflix. Nobody said anything. Thank God for Netflix. You know, when you're just sitting there minding your business, you've watched everything possible, and then you tune into something that you wouldn't really normally watch, but then you realize, hey, this is interesting. And I tuned into Netflix, and I was watching about World War II in color and seeing the downfall of Hitler and the Nazi regime. And the more and more I was looking at it, I was seeing stuff inside there that's saying, hey, we really shouldn't have won World War II. And when you look at it, World War II was one of the most disastrous armed conflicts in all of human history. More people died during that war than at any time in Earth's history. Almost 60 million plus. And it's sad because when you consider all the pain, all the weapons that were used to destroy people just because there was some maniac that didn't like other people. And no one had the courage to tell that crazy guy in Nazi Germany, you know what, I think you're wrong. Did you know that? The people around Adolf Hitler were too afraid to tell him you're wrong. They were too afraid to stand up to him. They were too afraid to say, you know, I don't think we should go to war with Poland. I don't think we should go to war with France, especially not England. And please don't go and turn your back on the Russians, because the Soviet Union, if you start fighting on your left and your right, but no one stopped him. No one questioned his strategies. No one was questioning his purpose. They just went along with it, except for the people who he was attacking. They finally said to him, no, we'll go to war, we'll fight you, we'll fight against you, we'll go against you. And I know you're probably thinking, but Mitchum, hold on a second, this is war. How are you trying to explain God through war? And I know it's kind of difficult, but it shows us something about divine justice and about how we can understand our purpose in the midst of tragedy. One of our things we need to understand is that we need to develop resilience. Because if you're not going to say no, if you're just going to let someone trample all over you, then you're realizing this tragedy will not just become a tragedy, it's going to become a travesty. And tragedy teaches us that we must stay resilient even when we don't have the answers, even when we don't understand. We need to resist. We need to stand up. We need to understand that you don't just fold up your chair and walk away. You have to stand up and say, I'm not going anywhere. Understand we need to be resilient. And I know it's difficult to grasp, but through that resilience, it's developing in us something different. We change when we start to resist. For those who go to the gym, you understand what I'm talking about. Resistance training gets you muscles. You know, I have a little bit here and there, you know. But, you know, even when you learn a bit of a resistance to study, you get stronger and you get stronger. But this resilience develops a different set of mindset inside of us. It develops character. And I know you're probably sitting there and saying, but those who are suffering from cancer and those who have been shot and those who have lost their limbs, how in the world can we say that this is good? But have you ever talked to people who are going through suffering? They're just so different than you and me. I would go crazy if I lost my limbs, and I realize there are people with no limbs doing more than me. They refuse to lie in the bed and cry. They're out there on their hands doing things that I can't do on my hands. You realize that those who are going through the most adverse tragedies in war-torn areas are getting up, going to school with bombs going off. Boom, boom, boom. And me, I don't want to go to school unless I eat breakfast. I mean, I can't function. I need some food. I need something to get in my stomach. And these people are going off in the midst of this. And I want you to understand that this resilience that makes in us a character, it transforms us and it shows us that we don't have to become the worst of what the world is throwing at us. We don't have to become the evil that is falling on us. We don't have to fall into this trap that, you know what, if bad is happening, then I become bad. If wrong is happening to me, then I'll just be wrong. If I'm going to be pained, then I'll just wallow in sorrow. No, it's showing us you have the choice to decide how you become. Situations don't mold us. We mold ourselves in the situation. And evil, there is evil in the world. Make no mistake about it, there is evil. And without getting into too much of the theology of it, you know what evil is? It's not the opposite of good, it's just the absence of good. It's just the absence of it. Because we know what's happening here. We know what's good. And for those who've ever read a book by a guy named C.S. Lewis in his book called Mere Christianity, he goes at this, and here's an atheist who became Christian through just reasoning. And here he is, he's just sitting down saying, listen, good, we know good, we understand good because we know what evil is. Someone punching you in the face for no reason, why would you do that? You're not supposed to punch me in the face. How do we know that? And I want to submit to you that God has put inside of us a certain set of principles, a certain set of understandings that we know the difference between good and evil. We know the choice that is there. We understand those things. Even children. And it's surprising. Children tend to understand more than we think, huh? They know the difference between right and wrong, and we haven't even taught them anything. They've never seen Freud. I hope they never have to read Freud too much, but, a lot of reading with him. They never have to go through university training, but they'll come up to you, he hit me, and it's like, how do you know, what's wrong? He hit me, and it's like, okay, what's the problem? They know that hit was wrong. But I'm saying to you this. This character building, this understanding develops something in us because tragedy will strike. But I want to let you know that tragedy can produce something better in us. Tragedy is not the end. Let me give you a couple examples from the Bible. For those of you who've read your Bibles or you understand these stories, there's a story of one of my favorite characters, Samson. He's one of my favorite characters, not my top one, because he makes some mistakes that just makes me wonder, what's wrong with this guy? And Samson is a guy who was strong as anything else. He was attractive. He was able to get any woman, and he went for the wrong woman. And this woman tricked him, and then he got captured. Here is someone who was chosen by God, someone who was special, someone who had power, and yet tragedy struck. Got his hair cut off, got chained up, got tied up, mocked, ridiculed for days and days and days. And Samson could have died an old dead dog, but he decided at the last moment, no. Forgive me, God. Help me do something that I could not do throughout my life. And could you believe that in that story, it tells us that at his death, he slew more Philistines than he had ever slew in his life. You don't believe me. You're scratching your head. It's like, that's not convincing me. The tragedy doesn't always lead that way. Well, consider another story about the children of Israel in Egypt. They were in slavery for years, hundreds of years, right? And throughout that time, they were crying to God, asking God to save them, deliver us, deliver us, deliver us. And along comes this guy who is he Israeli Hebrew? But he's with the Egyptians. What's your name? Moses? Come on, guy. What kind of an Israeli name is that? Moses. What kind of Hebrew name is that? And you're going to walk up to Pharaoh and tell him something that God told you? And these people who don't have weapons, don't have shields, don't have any military training, somehow they walked out of Egypt. They walked out of tragedy and found something beautiful. You don't believe me. You're just not convinced, aren't you? My last one here. Jesus Christ. Jesus is by far one of the most popular people in history. When you look up the top 10 most influential human beings, Jesus always comes in the top 3 or always the top 1. Everybody loves the teachings of Jesus. They love his principles. They love his attitude towards those who are sinners. And you would think that someone who was so good, someone who was respected by so many, that he would be treated right. And what did the people who didn't like him do to him? Lied about him, falsely accused him, put him on trial, and even when he was found innocent, and trust me, even Pontius Pilate knew he was innocent, tragedy still struck Jesus. But Jesus shows us something powerful in his sacrifice, that even in the midst of a tragedy, there can be a resurrection. Even when you think all the cards have been played, even when you believe that life is done, there is hope. There is hope. You see, this theodicy is trying to let us know there is a benevolent God. There is an omnipotent God. There is an omnipresent God. But God is not just there to kick things out the way when bad things happen. You see, this is why his scripture is telling us so often, and I want to share with you something that's found in Romans chapter 5, verses 1 to 5. And allow me to read this for you from the New International Version. Romans chapter 5, verses 1 to 5. Therefore, since we have been justified through faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. Here's verses 2 to 5. Through whom we have gained access by faith into this grace in which we now stand, and we boast in the hope of the glory of God. Not only so, but we also glory in our suffering. What? Why are you glorying in your suffering? He says, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character. And character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured out into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. Hope doesn't put us to shame. Lying on your hospital bed, dealing with cancer, doesn't put you to shame. Realizing you've been divorced your second time and your children are now living with someone else does not put you to shame. What puts us to shame is giving up. But what gives us character is to keep standing, to persevere. I was so amazed while watching Netflix. How is it that even at Dunkirk, you know that movie by, I'm sitting there, I'm going Dunkirk, really boring and all that stuff. But the whole movie was just about how in the face of insurmountable odds, people in little ruggedy boats were able to help people. When you look at the whole World War II events, you realize that these Allied forces were pushing against all the evil, all the forces, all the bullets, a D-Day, a V-Day, and every day they were just pushing and pushing because they knew if they keep pushing, they might just break through. And the forces of evil, those Nazi regimes, could not understand, even though they made critical mistakes along the way, why don't they give up? Why don't they stop? And they realized that the Allied forces would not stop because you don't stop until you win. You don't throw in the towel until you're dead. And even those who had died made the way for those who wanted to live. It's a serious tragedy, World War II. But we stand free today. It was a serious tragedy what happened to Jesus. But Jesus stands for us today. Because when they realized that his tomb was empty, what they thought was going to crush this little group of miscreants who were running around telling us about the, hope in God and all that stuff, and this, little carpenter preacher running around Palestine saying, I am the Son and I've come to set you free. When they realized that there was no one in the tomb, these disciples who had abandoned him suddenly regained their hope and their faith, and they turned the world upside down. Now, when they were faced with persecution, they didn't give up. Because tragedy, when understood in the light of Jesus, is better, because we know if we stand still, if we develop character, that we will win. So today, I know this is a short bit, and there's so much more to it, but I want to let you guys know there is a better tragedy in Jesus Christ. This tragedy is hope. You ever heard that before? The tragedy of hope? The tragedy of hope is that it gives us a future. So at this moment, we'll pause, and I'll come back with some more about a better freedom. Because there's some things we think we can just do and sets us free, but there's a better freedom in Jesus Christ, and I want to share that with you when we come back. God bless.
Spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathing your life over me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, when I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, 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 hey, yeah. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountains you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no lie you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountains you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountains you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountains you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. Well, I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, hey, yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you again. I ridiculously love that song. It's just so powerful and just tells us something about God, about how overwhelming that love is. At this moment, I want to talk to you about something that, you've probably heard before or you've had a concept of it. And I want to talk to you about freedom. Freedom is such a wonderful word, isn't it? When you realize that, our neighbors to the south, that word will drive them crazy. In the United States of America, freedom is the catchword, the word that people enjoy. They'll raise their flags and walk around, freedom! And it's something that's so wonderful. But sometimes we take freedom and not understanding what it truly means. And often when we take our liberties, we sometimes are walking ourselves into our own slavery. Sometimes we believe that we can do anything, and because we can do anything, we do anything, and we do everything, and we realize that it becomes something that binds us, chains us. And sometimes we seek, and people do seek freedom through different means. The more money you make, get rich or die trying, so that you can do anything you want with all that money. And you know what happens with people who seek money? They want more money, right? I'll be honest, I want more money. Do you want more money? I'm talking to you. And I'm looking at it, and you realize that when you have more money and you can do more things with money, you can go anywhere. You go traveling, you go get on a boat, and you go on vacation, or you'll rent a villa, or you'll buy an expensive car, and because there's nothing that holds me back. I can do anything I feel like it. I can go out with this person, go out with that person, go to this restaurant, go to that place, visit this country. Hey, let me try this. I can try this, and I can try that, and all of a sudden you're trying everything, and yet nothing is filling that void. It's bizarre that we want something, we long for something, And when we say we want freedom, sometimes it's not the ability to just do anything and everything. We just want to do one thing. And sometimes people get addicted to certain things, whether it be substance abuse, whether it be anxiety, whether it just be our very own pains that we glory in. We sometimes just sit there and we get stuck in those because we thought we were free to do anything, and now what we're doing is no longer making us happy. And I'm asking you a question now. When you're looking for freedom, are you looking for happiness as well? Because sometimes we're not chasing after freedom. We're just, because I can do anything, I'll just do what I feel like. So, you'll leave the house with no shoes on. But you realize your feet hurt. And because you've walked so far, all of a sudden you realize I'm now bleeding, I'm now hurting, and now you're suffering because of a choice that you made. You're probably sitting there wondering, where is he going now? But I want you to notice what I've said. Happiness, choice, happiness, and choice. The choices that we make will determine our happiness. And if you are looking for freedom, but everything is causing you sorrow, then I ask you, are you really happy? Are you really free? And when looking at all of these things, I'm wondering, do we really understand that sometimes the things that we thought would be our liberation often become the things of our own captivity? Because let's get into it here, when you are free to drink as much as you want. Because we're all adults in the room. We can drink as much as we want. And I remember an occasion where on a certain island in the Caribbean, someone thought that they can drink as much Ray and Nephew as they wanted to. And for those who don't know rum, that's a very powerful rum. That's rum that you use to wipe down wounds, not to consume. And you realize that they drank so much that they passed out, and they were in the hospital now, and now they were crying and wailing, wondering, where's my mom, where's my dad, I'm hurting. But how did you get there? You made the choice to drink a whole bottle, and you realize now that that was a mistake. There are those who believe that they are free to be with anyone they feel like it. And the saddest cases are when people decide to have extramarital affairs, or let's just call it, they have sex out of marriage. Just one time, and already they have some incurable disease or illness. One time. There are other people who are doing it hundreds of times, and they're not getting sick, and you do it, and it's just, now I'm finished. And there are those who are addicted to anxiety and stress, and they can't shake it off because they're too busy worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow, and am I going to pass? Am I going to what's going to happen? And oh my goodness! And instead of letting go, they just keep going and going and going and going. I want to share with you something. Do you know that happiness is a choice? Let me say it again, because I know sometimes we think that happiness, you got to be happy inside. If you're not happy, you got to put it there. But do you know that happiness is a choice? Happiness is a choice, and they've even done studies on it and even gone through that. And do you know that according to the Journal of Positive Psychology, they found that by simply trying to be happier could actually elevate your mood and well-being. And in one case, they did a study where they had two groups where the students were to listen to happy music. One group was instructed to make a concerted effort to feel happier, while the other group was instructed not to actively try to lift their mood. Sit down, relax. And the group that tried to feel happy experienced the most elevated moods after listening to the music. Thank you for the music. People who are happy choose to make happiness among their top goals in life, according to psychologist Tom G. Stevens, author of You Can Choose to Be Happy. But it's about making the right choice. Because if you choose to be happy by trying to get all the money in the world, let me just put it to you. There's some people who are still going to be richer than you. If you choose to be happy by trying all the things in the world, then you won't have an opportunity to experience the joys of the simple things in life, because there's always going to be a better beach. I'm sorry, there is going to be a better beach. There is going to be a better mountain. There is going to be a better hotel. There is going to be a better car. There is going to be a better house. There is going to be a better alcohol. There is going to be a better drug. There is going to be something better. And these things, sometimes the wealthiest of people are found committing suicide or living in misery, even though they have all the things in the world, because they're choosing something that's not fulfilling them. And the choices that we make decide for us how we're going to feel and how we're going to move about. Because if you make the wrong choice and get into the right car and get the right person sitting next to you, and then you decide to freely roll down Highway 20 and try and cut through DeCarry, and you realize other people are not making the right choices as well, and they're going to decide not to indicate and indicate left and turn right, and you're going to slam the brakes, and someone's going to hit you from behind, and you'll be like, what was I doing? But you chose to speed. And it's funny when you realize certain movie stars will get these expensive fast cars and then total them. And I'm sorry, if I got a brand new Honda Civic right now, you're not allowed in my car for a first month. I'm not giving anybody a ride. But others will get in fast cars not knowing how to use them and total them, and they'll realize, I'll just get another car. But if you really were happy with that car, why would you have destroyed it? Why would you have crippled it? Why would you have done that? You know, sometimes we're trying to run away from the things that are really hurting us. Big word, escapism. When you realize there's a pain deep down inside, when there's something that's bothering you, you try and get away from that by doing everything else in the world because you want to be happy, but you believe that happiness will be found by, you know what, I'm just going to go shopping. And I know some people find shopping to be the best cure to anything in life. Amen? That's right. Getting a new pair of shoes, getting a nice skirt, getting a nice new shirt, something to improve your mood. But then you realize 3 weeks later, this is old, passé. Some of us guys, we suffer from wearing something a little bit too long. You know, we're content with one shirt for the rest of our lives. But there are those who are trying to be happy through escapism. They try and escape from everything, try and get away from everything. But why are we trying to get away? Why can't we address the real problem, the real issue that's there? This can't be found with how much money you have. All the money in the world. This can't be found by traveling to every country in the world, because every country in the world still has issues and problems. But I want to submit to you that there is a happiness, a contentment, a fulfillment that can be found in Jesus Christ. And I know you're probably saying, here goes that old preacher again. You're coming out with that classic, Jesus can solve everything. But you know something? Jesus answers one of the most fundamental things in our lives. That deep longing and yearning of being accepted by someone who loves us so much, so recklessly, so purposefully, so fully, that everything else around us starts to lose value. Because love is the answer, but not love of cars, love of money, or even love of yourself. Love of God, that love of God that He has for us fills us to such a brim that even the things that we once thought were good start to lose their light. It's like sitting down playing video games for 14 hours straight. I'm not confessing, I'm just saying. I've heard there's some people who have played 14 hours straight. And you realize you're hungry, and you head to the fridge to get food, and when you open the door, wow, it's bright outside. And you realize that, you know, you wanted happiness, but the game was not fulfilling it. That's why you're playing it more and more and more. But just a 15-minute walk, and you suddenly realize, why am I playing games all day? When you realize that it's not every person that you wanted, but that one person that you want to be intimate with and share your life story and to be vulnerable with someone instead of having someone take all of you, offering yourself just to one, or not just consuming all the cocaine and all the LSD in the world to try and numb the pain, but to address the pain, because this is the thing that Jesus offers us. He offers us forgiveness. To be forgiven of something that you wanted to forgive yourself, but you don't have the strength to say, it's my fault. Or that longing that we have to be accepted by someone, because let's be honest, we want to be accepted. We want to be the cool kid. I know we're big adults and we're getting gray hair and we're running around paying bills, but we want to be accepted, We want to be accepted by the neighbor. We want to be accepted by the people in the street. And even the person that says, I don't care about anybody else. They do that because they want to escape the pain of being rejected. And when Jesus comes around and accepts us just as we are, it does something on the inside of us. And I remember in school when I was looking at who these disciples were, the 12 disciples. I wonder, why would Jesus surround himself with those guys? I mean, they weren't the top brass. They weren't the best theologians around. I mean, they literally were some vulgar fishermen, tax collectors. We don't like them people. There were brothers who were, mama's boys, and their mama was trying to get them into high positions, and everybody was bickering against everyone else. And then there are other people we don't know anything about, like Bartholomew. Who are you? And Jesus is surrounding himself with these people, and it's like, why are you accepting these people? And Jesus accepts these people to show that I'm not just taking the best of the best, but I'm taking everyone and I can make them the best. To have a man like Peter sitting there trying to catch fish all day and all night and being tired, and then Jesus comes around and says, you know what, go back out. And he's like, what, again? And he caught more fish than he's ever caught. To realize that, you're sitting there walking with this person, and this person knows you intimately, but still walks with you. He knows that you're carrying a piece on him. Do you know that Jesus knew that Peter had a sword on him and still hung around him? This guy's armed and dangerous, and he has a short temper too. And trust me, guys, when people have short tempers and they have weapons on them, my goodness, walking downtown can suddenly become whoop, whoop. Like, what's going on here? What's going on? Yo, he touched me. And it's like, who touched you? Like, calm down. Peter. And now all of a sudden, this same Peter who has a short temper and a weapon is suddenly transformed by Jesus coming back to him and saying, Peter, do you love me? Even though Peter had just denied Jesus 3 times, even though he had abandoned him and left him to hang on the cross, Jesus came back to him and said, Peter, do you love me? Could you imagine someone coming back to your life after you did them wrong? That's Jesus. And Jesus is trying to fulfill something that we've been longing for. He's trying to give us something that we've always desired. He didn't come to give us these bunch of rules. Everybody thinks that Jesus came to just tell you, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that, and you'll be happy. And we're like, we don't do this, we don't do that. I'm still miserable. But, Jesus didn't come to do that. You know what Jesus came to do? Bible says, I have come that they may have life and have it more abundantly. Long before Drake came around and said, this is, do this before your life is over. Jesus came around and said, I have come to give them life. Jesus came to let them know that life can be fuller than it is right now. And not just to live, but also to live eternally. Because if you're looking for real freedom, it's not going to be found in buying a new condo or getting a new house or a penthouse somewhere downtown. It's going to come in something deeper, something that's more lasting, something that doesn't require a monthly check or a down payment. Thought that would get everybody excited. Because this longing that you're looking for, this freedom, this happiness, this fulfillment is only found in someone offering you something free. And Jesus Christ is offering us that. We can make the right choice to be happy by accepting someone who accepts us just as we are right now. And I know you're probably looking at yourselves and saying, but hey, Mitchell, I got tattoos, I got problems. Yeah, okay. I have a past and I got bills. Okay, I did some wrong in the past, and I just want to be happy. I just want to walk away. My parents don't respect me anymore. Okay, you got dreadlocks and you're wondering, are they going to accept me? Oh, I ain't got no hair. So what's that? Guys, I want you to know that there is someone that can give us a better story. Not just a better tragedy, not just a better freedom, but a better story. A better story that leaves us more fulfilled, happier, and long-lasting. Because I don't know about you, for those of you who are like me when I was growing up as a kid, we love candy. No one's talking to me. Okay, I'll talk to the camera. You and I, we love candy. They don't like candy. You love candy. You eat candy, you're like, I want candy. And an hour later, you're hungry, and you go back for more candy. You get more candy, and you realize, that's hurting my stomach. And it's like, what's wrong? And you eat more candy because you thought the candy was the problem and the solution. And you're like, well, maybe it's not this chocolate. Maybe it's the gummy bears. And you realize that all of those candies were just temporarily filling you, but what you really needed was some food. What you really needed was to drink some water. I said it, water. What you really wanted to do was just enjoy something that was long-lasting and satisfying, because you're looking to be free from hunger, and freedom from hunger requires you to make the right choice to eat the right food at the right time instead of suffering and pain, and Jesus can offer us that freedom. All you have to do is choose Jesus. And when you choose Jesus, I'm not just saying arbitrarily just go around and say, I accept you, Jesus, but believe in your heart. Don't need a big church with a chapel on top. You can be at home right now. You could be sitting down in your bathroom. You could be on your couch, on your veranda, on your balcony. You could be watching this later on YouTube while you're sitting down late at night. Stop doom scrolling and find that fulfillment in Jesus Christ. Hey, listen. Could you imagine what your life could be when you're fully satisfied? Could you imagine that for a second? What it would be like when you realize that everything you've been longing for, everything you've been desiring, everything you thought you could have, you finally have it? You want to know why we struggle to imagine that? Because we don't think it could happen. And other times we think, nah, we don't deserve to have that happen. But Jesus came to let us know that even if we think we don't deserve it, it's a gift. Even though you think that, it's not going to really happen, it can happen. Jesus was able to transform some people that I don't even understand. I would never have accepted them and taken them. Not just Peter, but there was also a guy who was called Paul the Apostle. Do you know that Paul the Apostle was once known as Saul? And Saul was there while they were persecuting other Christians. He stood by on the side like a bandwagoner, holding on to the coats of everyone on him. And he was just there chilling. And he's like, yeah, get those Christians. Those people, they're trying to interrupt our Jewish festivities and making all these strange rules. And he was all content and all that stuff. And then one day, he sees a light. And you know what happens? That moment with Jesus, that interaction with him, changed him from this random guy who was just hanging around doing all the evil in the world, and now he has become someone who is transformed. And Saul later on became Paul, and people were scared of Paul at first. Because they're like, isn't that Saul of Tarsus? Like, he's going to kill us? Is he going to kill us? And they were like, no, he says he's different now. What makes you different now, Saul? Well, number one, my name is Paul. And two, the difference is Jesus. I know it may seem like a grandiose speculation, but I speculate that if you try Jesus, really try Jesus, something might happen and transform you. Because I know you want to be happy. I know you want to be free. And I know you're trying and doing things and, trying to escape from your problems and trying to go through all the freedoms and liberties that are there. But there is a liberation that comes from accepting Jesus Christ. Because he did not come to cause us death. He came that we might have life and have it more abundantly. He wants you to live. So if you're thinking of committing suicide, don't. If you're thinking of trying more drugs, don't. If you're thinking that no one loves you, stop. If you think that no one is accepting you and no one likes you, stop believing that and start believing that there's someone that loves you, someone that likes you. And even if it's just one, that's enough. You don't have to keep suffering and suffering as you are right now. I know many of us want to be free. I know we want to pull the chains off, but the chains are too heavy. But there's someone that can break those chains. And not just break them, he wants to break them. And I even got even better news for you. And I know this is going to go deep. Just give me 2 more minutes. I want you to know you are not even chained. You're just standing by the chains, and Jesus wants to kick them out the way to let us know you have been freed. Because what Jesus did on the cross was the key to all of our freedoms. He set us free from sin. He paid the price. You're not following me. He paid the price. We're walking around looking for our bank card, and we're wondering, what is this credit card that Jesus has given us? And you don't want to use the credit card that Jesus has given us, but it's the one that actually has something on it. Instead of trying to use your own life and abuse your own life, try Jesus. And you'll see that there's enough credit there to last us. I know. This typical thing, preacher, I've heard this before, and I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to say it again, because when you're free, you have to scream it at the top of your lungs. There is freedom for me, there's freedom for you. Stop living in slavery. Stop living in addiction. Stop living in pain. Stop living in sorrow. Stop living and wallowing in grief. There is freedom for each and every one of us. Stop believing that there's nothing good that's going to happen, and start believing that there's hope for those who believe in Jesus Christ. And I want you to know that this hope is not just going to lead us towards wishful thinking, but it leads us towards something that's better. Because when you realize you are free, you're not going to run back to the places that caused you pain. And when you realize that you no longer have to go back to the pain, you'll no longer follow the things that addicted you to that pain. So here is my thing and my proposition to you. When you try Jesus, I want you to try this. Just in that moment where you are, just to bow your heads and ask Jesus to be in your heart. Just to say, Jesus, I don't know how this works, but if I believe and if you help me believe, please help me. You don't have to try and run around the block, travel across the world. I'm giving you something that's free. No airplane ticket, no taxes on entering the country. You don't have to go and get special oil or special water. You don't need to buy a brand new Bible and memorize 65 verses. But right now, right here, something can happen. Because if you're going to stand in the line to wait for the drug dealer to sell you something, then you can spend 1 second asking God to help you now. If you're going to wait on your phone for someone to send you that text, come on over, baby, then you can wait some time in prayer with Jesus who can send you something. And I know you want to be free, like I wanted to be free. And I know what that yearning is like. And I want you to know that when you finally let go of the things that have been hurting you, suddenly you realize it's bright outside. When you realize you've been holding on to something that you thought would solve the problem, and you realize I was keeping the thought of that pain in my mind and not the joy of the liberty that exists. So to you, my friends watching, to those who are here, I know some of you want to try a new vacation destination. I know some people want to buy and try a new car because the current car is not comfortable enough. And I know some of us are going to try and, taste something new. But can I offer you something old that tastes better every day? And that's Jesus. You don't have to pay for him because it's already paid for. You don't have to book. You don't have to show a passport because the passport and the visa have been provided. And you don't have to go anywhere. And you don't have to try and do something really, really extra special, because this is the special thing about Jesus. Right where you are, it can happen. So, I don't know what you're looking for, but I do know there is a solution that fulfills everything, because Jesus is better. Jesus is better. And Jesus is simply the best. So I leave you with those things. And I hope that you have a wonderful day. But before this day closes, try Jesus. Try Jesus.
You call me out upon the waters, the great unknown, where feet may fail, and there I find you in the mystery, and oceans deep, my faith will stand. I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours and you are mine. Your grace abounds in deepest water. Your sovereign hand will be my guide. Where feet may fail and fear surrounds me, you've never failed, and you won't start now. And I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul and you are mine. Oh, you are mine. And you are mine. So Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Oh, oh. Yeah. So I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours, and you are mine. And you are mine. Hey.
All right. Thank you, Josh, for this song. It is personally one of my favorites. And thank you, Mitchum, also for your message. Actually, I'm going to invite you up front here with me. All right. So, very powerful message. And if there's two things that I know I'm going to take back home with me is number one, happiness is a choice. It's a very easy concept, which is very easy to forget. And number two will be to try Jesus. So this is the part where I open the mic to you guys. So if anyone has a question that they would like to ask for Mitchum, now is the time. So if you do, just raise your hand and I will come at you with the mic.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. And I don't feel nervous, because I'll be honest, like what I do in all my Bible studies or when I'm interacting with people, I let people know I don't have all the answers. And I'll tell them, if I don't know, I don't know. And here's the thing about what I love about when we have these discussions. When we can say we don't know, it's letting us know our limitations. Because we can't explain all of God. Because God is just beyond us. So how can we have all the answers to someone who is beyond us? We have such limited understandings. So I'll take your questions. If you have any concerns or remarks or what you have, we have a roaming mic that's there for you. So anyone have any questions? We'll start with a better tragedy. Tragedy, or what did you get about tragedy? What did you like about the message? What did you see from those, my introduction, my development, whatever you want to point out? What did you like? C'est à vous. En français, can I do in French as well? En français aussi. I can. Je vais essayer un peu de français aujourd'hui. There you go. Okay. There you go. I turned it off. Sorry. It's gonna come. It's gonna come. The green light is on.
Perfect. Well, so my question about the tragedy part, there you go. It's what do you say to someone that's going through tragedy? Like how can you be there for them? How do you know what to say, what not to say? Do you have any advice on that?
That's something that I was worried about too when I got into the ministry, because you think that you'll have time to like find the answers to life's difficult questions. And I remember the first time I got out of university, I got my first job being hired, and I walked in and someone came up to me and said, "This person, they just lost their grandfather. Go talk to them." And I'm there like, what? What am I supposed to say to that? And the first thing I'd always give to them is that don't try and find the answers, but listen. Listen to the person that's talking. Put yourselves in their shoes. Sometimes they just want to vent. Sometimes they just want to let that pain out, not to get the answers like, why did God do this? Why did that? They just want to let out that cry. And I would say to you, listen. I'd also say to you, empathize with the person that's there. Don't try and say, always, I understand what you're going through. Just say, I can only imagine. Because we don't know what everyone is going through. We don't know the pain that they're going through. You and I can lose our parents today, and you'll react differently than I would react differently. So empathy is what I would offer to everyone that's there. And to those who are going through different tragedies, because everyone has a specific thing. Someone could lose their house and their home that they've grown up in. Other people could lose family members, and some people can lose their country. People who have to run away from their very country where they grew up in. And I would just say to them, I may not have all the answers, I may not know, but I would tell them don't give up. Don't give up. Even when it's painful, even when it hurts. I just know that being strong, being resilient, even just saying being strong, just say don't give up, because something good could happen. Never know. Do we get questions from online people as well, or no? Okay. Remember, sometimes there are online answers. Anyone else with a comment, question, a better freedom, a better tragedy? I won't say if you have any other question, but while I'm here, I can still answer and field a few. There's one right there.
I really like the topic of freedom,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's really relevant to our generation. I'd like you to speak more about freedom according to the world versus freedom according to Christianity, because a lot of times people see Christianity as a lot of don'ts, right? And there is a lot of don'ts. But I'd just like you to speak a little bit more about it.
Okay.
Freedom according to the world and freedom according to Christianity.
Yes, thank you for that. The freedom in secular society and modern society is this concept that you are free to do, act, anything you feel like doing. Almost to the point where if it feels good, do it. And there's a certain sense of freedom in the legal sense. You are free to exercise your rights, and your freedom ends where other people's liberty begins. There is societal freedoms where, in a society where you're free to express yourself, to say what you feel like, say it either loud or soft. There is different freedoms that come from your scientific freedoms to experiment on different things and test different results instead of always being limited to what was said in the past. Christian freedom is a different freedom than legal freedom, than societal freedoms and the likes, where you're allowed to do what you're doing. And the best explanation that I've found for myself is that when you have accepted Christ, you are free to live. But it's like being taken out of the mud, taking a shower, putting on clean clothes. You are free to run back in the mud, but why would you go and do that? So the do's and don'ts is don't go back into the mud that got you dirty. Why would you go and put yourself back in a situation you got out of? It now means that you're no longer trapped to that mud hole. Now you can go and walk somewhere else, explore a different avenue of life. And the rules about, not stealing, or not committing adultery, or not defrauding someone. These things in Christianity, these principles, these rules are not just there just to keep us from getting rich or finding a new partner, but showing us that you don't have to be stuck in the same holes that others are being stuck in. When it says don't defraud, you don't have to rip someone off in order for you to get wealthy. You don't have to necessarily try and choose happiness by running after those things that are there. You can be honest and transparent with those around you. Christian freedom is this ability to live a new life, a better life, where you can live with integrity. Yes, you're free to lie, but why lie when you can just be living in the truth? Why live in a place where you're always trying to rip someone off? And the people who often try and scam people, they're not living in freedom, they're living in hiding because they don't want to get caught. But when you're living in honesty and transparency and you're not trying to defraud, you can walk the streets without having, Mitchum coming after you. You took my money. It's a different sensation that's there. And for those who are addicted to, saying I'm free to do different substances and the likes, you have no idea what it's like to speak to someone who is off of a drug. I've never taken drugs and been addicted to drugs, but I've spoken to people who have, and they tell me it's a difference between night and day. Night and day. The darkness they had before and the light they now have, they want to share that with others, to be free from those addictions. So that's my best way of explaining to you without going into all the technicalities of the actual definition, but I hope that answers your question. Thank you so much.
All right, so thank you everyone for your questions, and thank you, Mitchum, for answering them.
You're welcome.
So this is now the end of our first part for today of the Imagine seminar. So I have a couple of information to give out to you. And I invite all of you guys to stay for a meal afterwards, which will be served out back. After the lunch, I invite you guys to check out our Imagination Station, where you can come out and watch us interact with the community. Around 1:30, with the food that we're going to have left over, what we're going to do is that we're going to pack it up, and we're going to go in the streets and distribute it to the unhoused. And then after that, around 3:15, we'll be having our Art of Marriage seminar with Lincoln and his wife, Julie. And the Imagine program will be back here at 6:45. For those who are live streaming, it will be at 7. And can't wait to see you guys all there. So thank you once again for everyone.